The call came at 6:23 a.m. on a Tuesday, just as the morning shift nurse was checking my 4. I'd been in the hospital for 3 days following a car accident that had left me with a broken leg, 2 fractured ribs, and a concussion that still made the room spin if I moved too quickly. Sophia. My brother Marcus's voice was strained, panicked. Thank God you answered. Marcus? What's wrong? I asked, trying to sit up despite the pain shooting through my ribs. Mom. She collapsed at home last night. They rushed her to Mercy General and she needs emergency heart surgery. My blood went cold. Is she okay? What happened? Massive heart attack. The doctors say she needs a triple bypass, but there are complications. They want to do some experimental procedure that insurance won't cover. I closed my eyes, trying to process this information through the fog of pain medication. How much does it cost? $50,000. We need it today, Sophia. The surgery is scheduled for tomorrow morning. 50,000? I felt dizzy, and not just from the concussion. I know it's a lot of money, but we don't have a choice. I've called everyone in the family. Dad's retirement savings only cover 20,000. I can scrape together maybe 10,000 from my business account. We need you to wire us the rest. I looked around my hospital room, at the machines monitoring my vital signs, at the flowers my assistant had sent, at the stack of get well cards from employees I told everyone I barely knew. Marcus, I'm in the hospital myself right now. What happened? Car accident on Saturday. Broken leg, fractured ribs, concussion. I'm not exactly in a position to handle financial transactions right now. There was a pause. Sophia, this is Mom we're talking about. Can't you just use your phone to transfer the money? I almost laughed, despite everything. Marcus thought I could just casually wire $20,000 from my personal account like it was pocket change. He had no idea that the woman he thought was barely making ends meet as a freelance graphic designer actually had $47 million in liquid assets. But he also had no idea that I'd been anonymously covering Mom's medical expenses for the past 2 years. I can't right now, Marcus. What do you mean you can't? Sophia, Mom could die. I understand the seriousness of the situation, but I can't wire money right now. Why not? It's just a phone app. I tried to think of how to explain without revealing the truth. The truth was that I'd been secretly paying Mom's medical bills through a foundation I'd established. Her cardiologist bills, her medication costs, her previous emergency room visits, all covered by anonymous donations from the Helping Hearts Foundation. What Marcus didn't know was that Mom's surgery had already been paid for. Every penny of it, including the experimental procedure that insurance wouldn't cover. I'd made the arrangements 12 hours ago from my hospital bed after Dr. Patterson called to inform me, as her emergency contact, about her condition. Marcus, I can't transfer money because I'm heavily medicated and can barely think straight. Then give me your banking information. I'll do it myself. I'm not giving you access to my bank accounts. Are you kidding me? This is Mom's life we're talking about. And this is my life I'm trying to recover from. I was in a near-fatal car accident 3 days ago. Sophia, stop making this about you. Mom needs $50,000 right now, and you're the only person in this family who might have that kind of money saved up. I almost choked on the irony. Marcus thought I might have $50,000 saved up. In reality, I could buy the entire hospital if I wanted to. I don't have $50,000 just sitting around, Marcus. Then get a loan. Use credit cards. Sell something. Figure it out. The desperation in his voice was real, and it made my chest tight with guilt. He genuinely believed Mom's life hung in the balance, and he saw me as the selfish sister who was refusing to help. I can't right now. You're heartless, he screamed into the phone. Our mother is dying and you're worried about your own problems. The line went dead. I lay back against my pillows, staring at the ceiling and trying not to cry. The nurse who had been pretending not to listen finally spoke up. Honey, are you okay? Family drama, I said weakly. My brother thinks I'm a terrible person. Is your mother really having heart surgery? Yes. And it's already paid for. He just doesn't know that. The nurse raised an eyebrow. Why doesn't he know? I looked at her, this kind woman who had been taking care of me for 3 days without knowing that her patient was actually the CEO of Chin Digital Solutions, a tech company worth $340 million. Because my family thinks I'm poor. Are you? I gestured around the private hospital room with its panoramic city view and premium amenities. Do I look poor to you? She smiled. I was wondering how a freelance graphic designer could afford the penthouse suite. Over the next hour, 3 more family members called. My sister Ashley crying and begging me to find the money somewhere. My cousin Jennifer lecturing me about family obligations. Dad quietly asking if there was any way I could help. To each of them I gave the same answer. I couldn't help right now. By noon my phone was buzzing with text messages. Marcus, I can't believe you're abandoning Mom when she needs you most. Ashley, we're going to lose her because you're selfish. Dad, disappointed in you, Sophia. This isn't how we raised you. I was reading through the messages when my assistant David knocked on the hospital room door. Miss Chin, I brought the documents you requested. David was one of the few people who knew about my complicated relationship with my family. He'd been with me for 3 years and had helped me set up the anonymous foundation that had been covering Mom's medical expenses. How is she doing? I asked. Your mother? The surgery went very well. Dr. Patterson says the experimental procedure was a complete success. She's expected to make a full recovery. The surgery already happened? This morning at 10 a.m. The Helping Hearts Foundation covered all expenses, just as you arranged last night. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. And the family? Is still at the hospital, apparently trying to figure out how to pay for a surgery that's already been completed and paid for. David handed me his tablet. The hospital billing department is confused about how to handle this. The family keeps insisting they need to arrange payment, but the bills show 0 balance due. I scrolled through the medical records. Mom's surgery had cost $73,000, not the $50,000 Marcus had quoted. The experimental procedure alone was $35,000. Every penny had been covered by my foundation. What did the hospital tell them? That an anonymous benefactor had covered all expenses. The family is demanding to know who the donor is. My phone rang. Marcus again. Sophia, something weird is happening. What do you mean? The hospital says Mom's surgery was paid for by some anonymous donor. They won't tell us who it was. That's wonderful news. Is she okay? She's fine, but that's not the point. Someone paid $73,000 for Mom's surgery, and we don't know who. Does it matter? She got the surgery she needed. Of course it matters. We need to thank whoever did this. We need to know who spent that much money on our mother. I looked at David, who was trying not to smile. Marcus, maybe you should just be grateful that someone helped when the family couldn't pull together the money. We could have pulled it together. If you hadn't been so selfish about your savings. My savings wouldn't have covered a $73,000 surgery anyway. But if you'd contributed your part, we could have made it work. I realized Marcus was more upset about the anonymous donor than he was relieved about Mom's successful surgery. His pride was hurt that someone outside the family had stepped in to help. Marcus, Mom is alive and healthy. That's what matters. No, what matters is that some stranger thinks our family can't take care of our own mother. Maybe that stranger was right. The words slipped out before I could stop them. What's that supposed to mean? It means that when Mom needed help, the family's solution was to yell at the one member who was in the hospital herself. You could have helped if you wanted to. Could I? Because I'm pretty sure I told you I was heavily medicated and recovering from major injuries, and your response was to call me heartless. There was a long pause. Sophia, if you had just explained that you didn't have the money. I did explain. Multiple times. You decided not to believe me. Because you always act like you're broke when we know you have some savings. I almost laughed. Some savings. If only he knew that his broke sister had more money than the rest of the family combined. Marcus, what if I told you that the anonymous donor was someone who cared about Mom and wanted to help? I'd say that person should have identified themselves so we could properly thank them. And what if I told you that person didn't want thanks? They just wanted Mom to be healthy. I'd say that's weird and suspicious. David was shaking his head, clearly frustrated with my brother's attitude. Marcus, I'm going to hang up now. I'm glad Mom is okay, but I need to focus on my own recovery. Sophia, wait. There's something else. What? The doctors want to know about Mom's medical history. They say someone has been paying her bills anonymously for 2 years. Her cardiologist, her medications, everything. My heart started racing. What did you tell them? That we don't know anything about it. But Sophia, who has been paying Mom's medical bills. And why didn't she tell us? I closed my eyes. Maybe she didn't want you to worry about the money. Or maybe she was embarrassed that her family couldn't afford to take care of her. Marcus, you're looking at this all wrong. How should I look at it? Like someone who loves Mom has been making sure she gets the best possible care without putting financial strain on the family. But who? And why won't they tell us who they are? David was gesturing at his tablet, pointing to something that had just come in. Marcus, I have to go. The nurse needs to do something. Sophia, one more thing. What? I'm sorry I called you heartless. I was scared about Mom and I took it out on you. I understand. But I still think you could have found a way to help if you really wanted to. After he hung up, I looked at David. What were you trying to show me? The hospital administration wants to meet with you tomorrow. Why? Because they've figured out the connection between the anonymous donor and their patient. They want to discuss establishing a more formal arrangement for your mother's ongoing care. How did they figure it out? You're listed as her emergency contact, and you're the founder of the Helping Hearts Foundation. It wasn't exactly hard to put together. I sighed. So much for anonymity. Miss Chen, if I may, why don't you just tell your family the truth? I looked out the window at the city skyline, at the empire I'd built while my family thought I was struggling to pay rent. Because I wanted to know if they'd love me when they thought I couldn't help them. And now you know? Now I know that my brother would rather be angry at me than grateful to an anonymous benefactor. That tells me everything I need to know about his priorities. The next morning, Dr. Richardson, the hospital administrator, came to see me. Miss Chen, I understand you've been covering your mother's medical expenses. Through my foundation, yes. She doesn't know? No one in my family knows. May I ask why? I explained the situation. How I'd built a successful tech company while letting my family believe I was struggling, how I'd wanted to help Mom without revealing my success, how the anonymous donations had seemed like the perfect solution. And now my brother thinks I'm selfish for not contributing to a surgery I already paid for. Dr. Richardson nodded thoughtfully. Your mother is asking to see you. She knows I'm here? She knows her daughter was in a car accident. She doesn't know her daughter is also her anonymous benefactor. An hour later, Mom was wheeled into my room in a wheelchair, looking pale but alert. Dad and Marcus were with her, both wearing expressions of concern mixed with curiosity. Mija, Mom said, tears in her eyes, I was so worried when I heard about your accident. I'm okay, Mom. How are you feeling? Like I got hit by a truck but alive. He reached for my hand. The doctors say I'm going to be fine. Someone paid for my surgery. Some anonymous donor. Can you believe that? I squeezed her hand gently. I'm glad you're okay. That's all that matters. But who would do such a thing? $73,000 for someone they don't even know. Marcus stepped forward. Mom, maybe they do know you. Maybe it's someone who's been watching out for you. But who? And why won't they tell us who they are? I looked at Mom, this woman who had raised me and worried about me and never known that her youngest daughter had become more successful than she'd ever imagined. Mom, what if I told you that the anonymous donor was someone who loves you very much? I'd want to thank them properly. And what if I told you that person didn't want thanks? They just wanted you to be healthy and not worry about money? I'd say that person has a good heart, but they should let family take care of family. Dad nodded. We may not be rich, but we take care of our own. Even when your own is in the hospital herself? I asked quietly. The room went silent. Sophia, Marcus said carefully, what are you trying to say? I looked around at my family, at Mom in her wheelchair, at Dad standing protectively beside her, at Marcus who had called me heartless 12 hours earlier. I'm saying that sometimes the people who love you most are the ones you least expect to be able to help. Sophia, Mom said, her voice confused, do you know who the anonymous donor is? I met her eyes and smiled. Mom, I am the anonymous donor. The silence that followed was so complete I could hear the machines beeping in the hallway. What? Marcus whispered. I've been paying your medical bills for 2 years, Mom. Through a foundation I established. The heart surgery, all of it, that was me. Dad sank into the visitor's chair. Sophia, that's impossible. You don't have that kind of money. I have a tech company, Dad. It's worth about $340 million. 300. Mom couldn't finish the sentence. 40 million, I completed. I'm the CEO of Chin Digital Solutions. We develop software for Fortune 500 companies. Marcus was staring at me like I'd grown a second head. But you're a graphic designer. I was a graphic designer when I started the company. Now I'm a CEO with 200 employees and offices in 4 states. And you've been paying Mom's medical bills? For 2 years. I didn't want her to worry about money when she was worried about her health. Mom was crying now. Mija, why didn't you tell us? Because I wanted to help without making it about my success. I wanted to take care of you quietly, the way family should take care of each other. But we could have been proud of you, Dad said. We could have celebrated your success. Could you? Because when I needed help yesterday, Marcus called me heartless for not contributing to a surgery I'd already paid for. Marcus looked stricken. Sophia, I didn't know. That's the point, Marcus. You didn't know, so you assumed the worst about me. I was scared about Mom. I was scared too. But I was also lying in a hospital bed with broken bones, and instead of asking if I was okay, you demanded money. Mom reached for my hand again. Sophia, I'm so sorry. We've been terrible to you. You haven't been terrible. You've been human. But maybe now you understand why I kept my success private. Over the next hour we talked more honestly than we had in years. I told them about building my company, about the sleepless nights and the risks and the satisfaction of creating something meaningful. They told me about their fears and assumptions and their struggle to understand why I'd hidden my success. I want to pay you back, Mom said. Mom, you can't pay me back $300,000 in medical expenses. $300,000? Dad's voice cracked. 2 years of cardiac care adds up quickly. Sophia, why would you spend that much money on me? I looked at my mother, this woman who had sacrificed so much for her children, who had worried about my career and my future while I was secretly building an empire. Because you're my mom and I love you and I never want you to choose between your health and your financial security. Marcus was crying now too. Sophia, I'm so sorry I called you heartless. You're the most generous person I know. I'm also the person who needed my family's support yesterday and got yelled at instead. How can we make this right? Dad asked. I looked around at my family, these flawed human people who had finally learned the truth about their daughter and sister. By letting me take care of Mom's medical expenses without making it weird. By being proud of my success instead of intimidated by it. And by remembering that family takes care of each other in whatever way they can. And if we can't afford to reciprocate? I smiled. Dad, love isn't a transaction. I don't help Mom because I expect something back. I help her because I can, and because she raised me to be someone who would want to help. As I watched my family begin to understand who I really was, I realized that sometimes the most expensive gift you can give someone isn't money. Sometimes it's the gift of knowing that someone loves you enough to take care of you, even when you don't know they're doing it. The anonymous donor had a name and it was Daughter.